Welcome to the Heal Yourself podcast, where we dive deep into all things healing. I'm Denise, a speech language pathologist and a self-love coach for adults and teens.
And I'm Kira, a traditional naturopath and functional nutritionist, and we're here to guide you through the transformative process of healing your body, mind, and soul.
From the latest in functional medicine to nurturing your relationship with yourself, healing trauma, and even transforming your money story, we're here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to create lasting change.
So whether you're looking to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, join us as we explore the many paths to wholeness and wellness. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself podcast. Today, Denise and I are talking about shadows. And not shadows
goodness.
like from the tree, but shadow work.
I know.
Shadows within ourselves, which
Not the
it's funny.
shadow. Well, maybe it could be the shadow that you see when you're walking.
It could be.
It's
And maybe
with
it's the
you
same
all the
thing.
time.
It is. And that's the thing. I heard the term shadow work. I've heard it for years, but I was like, I don't know what that is. Like it sounded like something really dark and evil. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I'm gonna agree with you because for the longest time I stayed away from that. And every time I see
Mhm.
people talking about shadow work, I'm like, no, 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 I'm gonna stick to affirmations and visualizations. And this is true story because literally, like, because Louise Hay, when she talks, she's always talking about from now moving forward, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll follow her teaching because she's not talking about digging deep, but
Mhm.
it just kept showing up. And I was telling you the other day that I have an app where sometimes you can you can click on a button, ask the universe what you want to hear or what you need to hear, something like
Mm.
that. So um, what showed up was one of Debbie Ford's. It was like an online course, I think that they did. Debbie Ford passed away in 2012. I didn't even know that. I had to like Google all that stuff. So I started listening to it, and I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting." And then she has a book, so I started, reading that. But then I was at Target a few weeks before that, and then I saw shadow work, whatever thing, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." So it kept falling in my lap,
Mhm.
and I was like, I want to dig deep. And it's been great. I'm like,
Yeah.
why did I resist
It's
it
not
so
evil.
much?
Well, and
No,
I think sometimes we resist things that we don't know about or we have preconceived notions, or sometimes we resist things because we know it's going to be painful to dig into.
I think so. And then, but once you do, I mean, I'm not saying it's not painful. And again, my experiences are different than yours, Kira, and are different than the, person listening.
Mhm.
However, it's sometimes like it doesn't have to be painful. It can just be very subtle. And I will use some of the exercises that I um heard from the courses and one of the books that I've been reading because it's so practical. And you know me, I love to give practical things because I'm just, like if I can do it, I put it in practicality, maybe one person can. So
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it can be dark, yes, if you have that, there are people who have the darkness and
Hmm.
that's okay. So, but yeah, and I love that it's just kind of like it's going back to all of the teachings from Carl Jung, and I'm like, I don't understand Carl Jung, but it's the books that I'm reading are simplification of a lot of his teachings.
Yeah. Well, and there's a quote from him that I'll share. And just to explain what shadow work is. So, Carl Jung said, the shadow is everything we refuse to acknowledge about ourselves. I think we can all understand what that means. And shadow work is really just bringing the unconscious conscious, which you and I talk about all the time, but
Yes.
not just the unconscious, the disowned parts or the pieces of you that you have been ashamed of, right? Of like, I'm trying to think of a really good example. So, something around money, like, I really want to make a lot of money, but you grew up in a family where it's like greed is wealthy. Okay, well, I'm gonna hide
Mm.
that down. I'm not gonna talk about it. Um,
Right. Or for example, it could be something when you grew up, you heard somebody, let's say you heard your mom, your dad, whoever, talk about, let's say, this lady being, oh my goodness, look at her. She's so bitchy, or she's so rude, she's so mean. So you start developing that character, like, oh, maybe because she's a businesswoman, or oh, maybe because she has a really high job that associates with bitchy and with
mhm.
meanness and with rude. So you start staying away and hiding that aspect of you
Yep.
because that's what it is. Because according to Carl Jung and everything that a lot of the things that I have been reading, it is we have all of those aspects. You have the mean, you have the rude, you have the happy, you have the joyful, you have the kind, you have all of the arrays, all of your aspects are within you. It's just what life is mirroring and what you are kind of also identifying with and feeding, right? Because kind
Yeah.
of like I don't know if you've ever seen that, either a quote or something where we have two wolves or something, and whoever you feed, like the good or the bad,
Mm.
it shows up. So yeah.
I actually have an example of this. It's funny. I told you I was reading a book I got out of the library and it was all about the mind, but then there was one chapter on like parts and shadow and I'm like, "Oh, there it is, Denise." But she was sharing that yeah, we have all of these aspects. Like people that you see on the news of like evil and like you said bitchy or this or that. We have all of those parts within all of us. It's what are we choosing to act with and who are we choosing to be? And there was an example. I had never heard of this. Are you familiar with the art project Rhythm Zero?
No.
This was insane. So she gave this some woman, she was an artist. This was in like the 70s. So she said she was going to stand still for 6 hours, not move, not smile, not do anything. Stand still for 6 hours and in front of her the art constellation was like 70 some different objects, like from like a teddy bear to tape to a gun. She had 70 things in front of her. And her art project was more of like a psychology thing. She wanted the audience to interact and see what they would do. And it started out all cute and nice, I'll just say. Literally got to the point, and I haven't, like, she shared in the book, but she even said she wasn't going to go into the graphic details. So I don't know the extent. Got to the point where someone had a gun to her head, literally just had a gun to her head. Somebody from the audience. These are normal people just going out and looking at an art gallery and it got to the point where someone had a gun to her head and she had tears streaming down. And one of the bystanders was like, let's not do that. And I don't know the other extent, but it was in that art project, we'll call it, that, people started realizing we have aspects of everything. It's how are those starting to present? Because it started out as something very innocent and very good, and somehow it got to that point. Those are our
Yeah.
shadows.
Yes. Yes. And I also want to add, and sometimes if you're listening and you're like us, like, oh my goodness, you're like, what is this? And that was us a few months, years
It's
ago.
still
I'm
me.
telling you, it's still me too. And again, please, whatever I'm saying, it is what I am interpreting and what I am perceiving from reading those books and listening.
Hmm.
But if you're wondering, like, what is an aspect of me that I'm hiding? I can't be that or whatever. Debbie has a really subtle way of saying this. She's like, because life is constantly mirroring to us, right? Our unconscious part and what
Hmm.
needs to be healed, right? So she said that whatever you get triggered by others or whatever someone says to you that's triggering and you're like, oh my gosh, goodness, and you go in that defensive mode or whatever, this is your shadow. For example, let's say, and it can be a random stranger. You're like, look at them, you're like, I don't like her or I don't like him. But
Hmm.
why? Let's dig deep. What is it that is triggering about that person that I'm immediately judging? Is it this? Is it that? Can I be this? Right? Because she even gives an examples in her book of like people are like, well, I can't be a murderer. He's like, okay, right.
Go back to
But
rhythm zero.
under, yeah, exactly. But under these circumstances and this, can you entertain the idea of or and she would ask him question and at the end of the day, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. So if you want to start to discover the hidden aspects, what your hidden aspects are, I would definitely start recommending like, start with the people that you know, right? If someone that you love or someone that you know tells you something and it's still a charge, right? So for example, if someone tells you, Denise, you are so, Kira, you are so greedy, or Kira, you're so wasteful, and that word still upsets you to this day, then that word you need to work on that and those feelings
Hmm.
attached to it until that word does not have a charge on you anymore, right? So she even has an exercise where you are listing all of these aspects of you that you don't like, and you're looking in the mirror and saying, I
Mm.
am an asshole. I am an asshole, until you realize whenever you say I'm an asshole, you're like, oh, whatever. Because when someone else calls you, you're such an asshole, you're like, okay, I
Yeah,
know I could be
it
that.
loses.
Because I'm sorry, I have to add something. I know
No,
I'm
you're
like
fine.
everything that I learned. So she's, because I don't want to forget it. So what she says too is that whenever you identify that aspect of you, and then how can okay, I can be that, right? So I can be mean person. But then here, let's go back in my experience and see, being mean, did that serve me at one point, one time? Yes, it did. One time I was mean, and then I was able to get to this place or to whatever, right? It served me. So that's where you're like, I'm gonna accept that shadow, which is part of me, because it has served me as well.
Hmm.
And this is when it also stops having a charge on you, because you are realizing that that aspect of you is also there for you.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that, like, oh, okay, I just realized I am an asshole, as you said. Therefore, I'm going to go out and be an asshole now because I'm okay with it.
Mm-mm.
Like, that's not what we're saying. It is an aspect of you that needs some healing and needs some recognition. And you said it. We always say triggers are your lessons, but in this case, like triggers are your breadcrumbs. They're leading you to something. If you're constantly getting triggered by something, then start to pay attention to it, right? Like there's so much spiritual bypassing, that happens. Is that happening because you don't want to deal with your suppressed anger, your discomfort? The other thing I'm going to chime in around this though is my one of my mentors always said you cannot have light without dark, and right, and that's your shadow. But it's anything in this world, unfortunately. It's a yin and a yang. You have to have two pieces. So look at the aspects of you that you love and then start to think about what the opposite is because that lives in you. How are you suppressing it? Are you ashamed of it? Do you need to do some work around it?
Yeah.
If you're a people pleaser, that was me, what's hiding underneath that? What's the opposite of a people pleaser? Because that aspect lives in me somewhere.
Lives in, exactly, exactly. And because always, a lot of people who talk about shadow, and I'm thinking also Carl Jung has said that that's why it's been, written several times. It's, you can't know love unless you know hate. And I think
Mm-hmm.
also Esther and Abraham Hicks talk about it. You can't know generosity if you don't know, stinginess. You can't know whatever. So everything has its opposites, and they
Does.
all are part of you. That's why when you said there are people who do parts personality or whatever, parts healing or whatever that's called, because there are, the aspects that we hide, and we really, 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 and sometimes those can be things that we can't even. That's why I'm saying pay attention to your outside world and all of the words that trigger you, because sometimes there are aspects of you that you don't even know that you've hidden,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they are wreaking havoc on relationships or whatever. So it's kind of important to I don't know, I was going with this is what
Pay attention.
happens
It
when
goes
that's
back
because
to awareness. Truly, it
yeah,
all goes back to awareness. We say this in probably every episode now, but it's awareness. You've got to pay attention. Like some people go through life getting triggered by things and getting upset and doing this and doing that, but never paying attention to, okay, but why am I doing that?
yeah,
What in me potentially needs to be healed? Because I think that we are here to heal. That's it. Like we come in
absolutely.
perfect, and then by a certain age, we're now imperfect, just by being here.
Yeah, I definitely want to I was trying to find it while you were talking, so I put myself on mute, but I do want to find that quote that I wrote down yesterday and I read it to you. But it's on audio. Should I play the audio or go down and find the quote? Because I loved how he said, like, this is our soul's journey to unconditionally love all parts of
Hmm.
ourselves.
I mean, you
So, but
can,
I want to put it in his own words.
yeah, play it and
Yeah.
see if we can actually hear it.
Let's see here. Hang on. And that's me, like recording a voice to Kira yesterday. You're attracting this, like whatever the experience is, because the soul's evolution is about building unconditional, loving relationships with all parts of yourself, represented as each emotion. So represented as each emotion. That's not
Mm,
from me. That's a new author I'm listening to, and his name is Matt Kahn, Kahn, and I just discovered him a few days ago, and I just love that quote because it also ties into the emotion.
yeah.
'Cause the emotions.
Which, yeah, go back to our emotion episode if you have not listened to that one. It's like five or
Yeah,
something.
because so basically everything is tied in. So
It
I think
is.
that's why also you and I are being led to this journey right now because also maybe we've also been resisting the shadow work. We've been resisting some of these things.
Or
And
maybe
I mean,
we're
it
ready
does
for it.
work.
We've
Yeah,
been
maybe we are
on,
ready for it. Yeah.
that's the thing. We've been on this journey for so long and recognize that like healing is an ongoing thing. And then it's like the more you learn and the more you start to heal and the more you start to really embrace a life of like every day lights me up to be here and to be able to have this experience, the more you want to keep going through that.
Yeah. No, I
So,
know. And it could be a little bit like I get it. It could be we're starting this out, so we're very beginners. So also make sure that you're also graceful with yourself. So if something like, oh, I don't know what they're talking about, it's okay. Maybe in a year this will make sense. Because
yeah,
to us now this is making sense versus a year ago it didn't, right? So it's kind of like what your soul's, evolution is going through as well. So you gotta have respect for that journey too.
yeah. Well, and I know everyone has a different process. Like there was one that I was reading about again, just one chapter in a book, but you have done more reading. Do you have a process that you're going through to either find the shadows, beyond the triggers and to work through them? Because I'm sure people listening are like, okay, so I found out that I'm a bitch. What do I do with that?
Right. So this is what I have been doing, and I'm going to give you a real example. So, every time I get triggered by someone's actions and I immediately judge them. So, like, for example, I say, I judge someone in my mind, you're so messy or you're dragging. And I stop myself right there and then with that judgment. And this is not journaling, this is just happening in my
Mhm.
head. I'm like, okay, so I'm judging that this person is messy. Okay, so that means that person is reflecting that because they're a mirror. So that means I can be messy. Can I be messy? Of course I can be messy. Look, I left this, I left that messy. How has messy served me? Messy has served me here, here, here. And then I just accept it. And I say, yeah, sometimes I am messy. So now, whenever somebody is messy, I look at it, I'm like, okay, they're messy. You know what I mean? I'm not getting upset over their messiness because messiness to you may not mean anything, but I'm
Mhm.
talking about to me because
Oh
I
yeah, no,
grew up
that's it.
in a
That's one
very
for me
clean,
too.
free home, right? And the big example yesterday, we're having a conversation and we were talking about, so we were having open conversation, and I was told that sometimes I say instead of saying I'm controlling, I say I'm a leader, I'm determined, etc. And the person was saying to me, well, but you aren't controlling, and and I said, you know what? I am. And I did not get triggered by that because I have been working on, I understand that I can be controlling, but where has control had led me to a lot of great places. I
Mhm.
am where I am because sometimes of that, that doesn't mean, and that doesn't justify, right? You forgive yourself on that aspect. However, you also respect that, what, that aspect is there and it helped me and it served me. So because once you start accepting it, it stops being triggering and it stops showing up. The
Mhm.
experiences stop showing up because what's happening if you're constantly burying this aspect of you that you don't like, the experiences are coming in to trigger that change. But
Yeah.
whenever you don't learn from that lesson or take that opportunity as a lesson, what's happening is the experiences keep getting repeated. So that is the simple process that I learned and I have been doing. It may not be the right process that's in the books, but it's how I'm understanding it and how I am practically applying it. And when this experience happened yesterday, and that word that used to, like, when someone used to say it to me, I'm like, excuse me, I'm a leader, I'm da 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 da. And then yesterday I was like, it did not phase me. And I've been only doing 1 week. And again, please don't compare experience to mine. I've
Hmm.
been doing the work since 2018 and I read like a freaking maniac. Like I read 3 books at a time. And sometimes I jumbled my head. I get it. And sometimes I misinterpret things. Just knowing 4 languages, it kind of like sometimes you misinterpret things. But this is a simple process that I was able to pick up in one of the lessons that I have been you know, listening to.
Yeah, and I think that's where you have leeway, right? Like some of my clients are like driven nuts when I'm like, but what does your gut tell you? What does your intuition say? And they're like, I don't know, I want you to tell me what to do. Sometimes we can't. Like, don't give your power away. Find what works for you. Just because you read what some expert said in a book about shadows or this or that doesn't mean that's the exact process for you. What Denise said might be exactly what you need. It could be you just digging even deeper of like, okay, I've established that this part is my shadow, right? I'll use your control as an example. I'm a control freak. When did I learn that that part of me wasn't allowed? Do I need to journal on it? And I'm not a journaler. I'm an inner voice person. So I am going to have that conversation with myself in my head. Maybe you need to move. Maybe there's a lot of nervous system dysregulation from it where it's like very high charge, right? It was something linked to a trauma. Okay, maybe you're not even going to have that conversation right now. Maybe it's like put in the back pocket for we're going to try that next week. We're going to try that next month. We're going to see when I can have that. Do I need to do some movement around it? Do I need to do some art around it? So you get to pick, right? Don't ever feel like, okay, I learned about this one thing and this is how I have to move through it. It doesn't work
Yeah.
that way.
No, and I love the way that you said it. Another part that she talks about too is also like, yes, journaling or talking with yourself or meditating over where did that aspect start, right? Like, and I mean, she gave so many examples and literally like, people be like, I can never be an idiot because she was working with a couple and I guess they were talking like he was like, I can never be an idiot, never. And he's constantly hiring idiots. I guess he's a big, in corporate or so, in a corporation or something. And he's like, everybody's around me is an idiot. And she's like, well, let's think about it. Let's talk about it. Could you have that aspect? Never. I could never be an idiot. Blah, 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 blah. One thing led to another, one thing led to another. He was refusing. There's no way he's going to be an idiot. That's it. Like he cannot accept that fact. No, no matter the example she's giving him. And I guess they live on the East Coast where something is it's really cold. And I guess they were driving because she was visiting them. And then I guess he left the keys in the house in the freaking freezing cold. And then what kind of person would do that? Only an idiot does, right? So it kind of proved to himself that I
Mm,
can be. And
yeah.
this is when they kind of like went through. And then when you accept, and that's why she showed him this is why you kept, hiring those idiots, bringing them into your experience until you accepted that part of you.
And
And then
healed
this
it.
is when, and healed it exactly. And when you healed it, it doesn't have a charge over you. Okay, fine, sure. And you stop bringing it into your experience because it's already lesson learned type of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Well,
assignment understood.
right. Okay, got it. The other, I have not encountered this, and maybe you have, but this is a question that came to me, so maybe it's going to come to others of let's say he didn't have the experience of being an idiot, right? Which I agree, we have all of these parts to us, but let's say it still wasn't discovered. What if someone told him when he was 6 years old that he was an idiot?
Right. So this is how she went back to it
Yeah.
because he heard his dad
Okay.
saying you are an idiot when he
Exactly.
was 6 years old. And that's where it ties into your
Yep.
suggestion where dig deep where it
Hmm.
started. And guess what? Sometimes, and I'm going to be very truthful, sometimes digging deep, you can discover when it happened. And sometimes it doesn't even come to you. But
Hmm.
guess what? Guess what? Surrender it because sometimes it just might show up in meditation. Or sometimes it just might show up as a random because I was trying to discover, I was trying to remember when did I form the idea of what is wrong with me? Because I can immediately go to what is
Hmm.
wrong with me. And I kept like, oh my goodness, like where did this come from? I know some childhood, but I'm not being able to remember. But then I let it go, I surrendered, and then it showed up a few weeks later or a month later, and I was either doing meditation or journal. I don't know, but it kind of was clear to me how it started, and I remembered. And this is when it comes up now, because guess what? It's always gonna come up. It's gonna
Yep.
come up. And you will say, and then this is when you can. work through it when it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely, you will, again, if you don't remember, it is what it is. It might show up and it might not show up. I don't know. Again, like you said, Kira, we all have different experiences. We all have different opportunities. We all have different upbringings. We all have different limitations and limiting beliefs, etc. So make sure that you just kind of apply it to yours, and and be patient with yourself, because had we not been patient with ourselves, we wouldn't be where we are
Mm-mm.
right now. Yeah.
No, and we just trust the process. I'm the person that, yeah, a lot of times I don't remember where some of these came from, but I give myself grace and I just say, that's okay. Thank you for still showing up. I can still work through this, even if I can't remember when exactly it started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know we gave you something, and you can, if you want to start, you can, start by reading the book, by exploring it, by being curious about it, right? Like I immediately did not like the idea a couple years ago when I heard about it, and it just, started showing up one thing after the other after the other. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds okay. And then I was ready for it. I was
Yeah.
ready to receive it. 2 years ago I wasn't. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we hope that you got something out of this as always. Um,
Hmm.
Thank you for listening. Honestly, we are so excited to see. I think, what is this, our 30th episode? Like, still going
Oh.
strong every
I don't even
Thursday.
know. Is
I
it?
think it
Is it
is. I think,
more?
yeah, still going strong, you guys. So, want to grow this, please, please, please leave us a review, message us on Instagram. Let us know if there's topics you want to hear about, guests that we could perhaps bring on. And then,
Just
of
any
course,
question
and share it
for
with a
for our
friend.
friend. Yes, yes, please share
Share
it
it,
with
share it.
friends, share it with somebody that
Post it on
might.
social, something.
Yeah, just we need your help, because
We do.
so we can continue spreading this word. And I feel that because we are really putting it into practical terms, right? Because sometimes, what we're saying, other people are saying it. But I feel with us, we're coming from the like practicality, let's get it done, very simple, not too philosophical way. So thank you seriously for listening. And we
Yeah.
love, 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 love your feedback. And we're still working on the secret thing. No, it's not so secret, but on the program that we are revamping. So we're still working on it. And we have some ideas. So we
Stay
will
tuned.
share. We'll share in time, in
Yes.
divine timing.
Yes. When the time is right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next episode.